I returned to home on the next available flight. It offered a chance to think about all the events that had occurred. Accounting for the fact that I had destroyed the Eiffel Tower and managed to not leave any incriminating evidence was quite astounding. Indeed, I was now a rather clandestine terrorist. How quaint. I would plan to secure new lodging, as I was absolutely sure that Mrs. Bellegoth would not prefer my residence in her summer home any longer. If she was even still alive. I was sure of it, and to where she had vanished I had no clue. In my folly to hurriedly destroy the apparent invasion source's location, I had actually not paid the attention to her departure. I only thought of completing my plan before she could stop me. Silly me, a rather bad call. I was concerned that I would not have any further trust for anyone. If Bella could seduce me and yet be an alien, what would become of any further request for assistance? Who would I ask if everyone could potentially be alien in disguise? I would proceed with extreme caution now. And I would rather happily accept the challenge. I had nothing to lose. The new flat was a rather nicely oriented little apartment. It offered an acceptable view with comfortable furnishings. I would be quite comfortable here. I was just settling in when I received a call. Odd. No one had my new number? The caller identified himself as representing the Agency of Operational Surveillance. A secret organization not exposed to public scrutiny. It sounded too incredible, and I was quite blunt in my telling him so. If they were alien spies bent on my death, I warned them, I would not be so easily dispatched. He assured me he was legitimate and asked my complete silence on the matter. The phone was being jammed from his end, and no one intercepted our call. He said a car would be around to escort. Would I care to come? He said they might provide me some answers to questions I hadn't even formulated yet. I agreed, and when the car arrived, I left. I arrived and went to the reception area. An agent held me in secure to perform a security check. I was expected. He waved me inward to main meeting room on the second floor. I was expected. I entered the room and noticed a senior officer immediately left. I was bad to sit, and did so. The officer congratulated me on causing an enormous international incident. He said that traces of radioactivity had been detected at the explosion site. It had helped them to explain that apparently terrorists had completed the act. Was that acceptable to me? I was not wanted for any infraction or deliberate action. I was content with his efforts. He then said that I was now working for them. My career with the police department would be discreetly terminated, but they had the ability to manufacture a 40-year enrollment and a nice pension for me. No one would ever suspect I was an agent for the Crown. I would be given a new identity, with new certificates to help keep my identity secure. Was I interested? I suppose, but please, I begged him, do not name me Bond. He laughed. No, my good friend, he said. And you'll not be given a 00 number either. I smiled. Pity, I did so want a number. But, he smiled wryly, you do have a license to kill, should you need to exercise it. It seems you have no complacency with dispatching those who desire you ill will, nor to the world of Sims. That, along with my abilities as seen so far in figuring out all that I had managed to deduce. He said wryly, was I ready for the next step? I assured him that indeed I was. I went to the Goth estate. As I suspected, Cassandra was there in residence. Her mother, she said, had gone missing abroad and she was called on to run the family in her absence. It meant temporarily abandoning her studies. She also had to compile payments for bills rendered. Was I aware her mother had authorized purchases in excess of £7,000 in France? Simply like her, she laughed. I stifled my one amusement. She asked what I was doing later, but I had plans and I begged to be excused for them. We would meet later. I must admit I could not tell if she was a human or an alien. Perhaps, just perhaps, She was both. She still radiated that warm smile and cheerful disposition that had infatuated me with her, and, again, her perfume sent me into an intoxicated feeling of euphoric delirium. If she were to not be an alien, I might have another go with her at romance. I bid her a good evening and took my leave to return to my apartment for a bit of a soap shower and dressed. When I arrived, I was met by my new neighbor. She introduced herself as Jennifer. As student studying medicine at State. An alien in disguise? A rather cute one, the disguise I meant, not the alien. I said that perchance we might have a date together at a later time, as I was quite tired. I left and walked to my home. She smiled, but of course mon chéri. French. How curious. In the morning I proceeded to the address given me. It was the headquarters of the Space Operations branch of the agency. My new credentials had preceded me, and I met with the director. He explained their predicament to date. Several unexplained sightings and reports of flying unknowns were held there in secret. We were the only department to maintain files on everything of note in extraterrestrial origins. They had built several ships to navigate space with and were only now finalizing their plans. This takeover of Sims had been monitored closely, as had my personal involvement in the case. From the grilled cheese case being solved to the onslaught of my adventure into the alien conspiracy. I had done remarkable work in putting the puzzle together, and they had not been aware of the underground repository in France. Pity I couldn't have secured the location for them. I smiled. The transportation device had teleported Bella to the alien base. She was feverishly plotting her revenge. The spaceship I had destroyed carried the weapon they had developed to mutate all the surrounding Sims for hundreds of miles. It was the ultimate weapon, and now she was left to explain herself to her superiors. She hurriedly worked on developing their original plan of mutants bent to killing everyone in their path. The monsters would be brought forth. Her own excitement and haste caused her to foolishly conduct rather harmful experiments that required a bit of finesse to accomplish. In her worried state, she was radiated with a lethal dosage of radiation. It killed her. And so, at the very least, she was not to be of further consequence to me, or to you. Until next time. Until next time.